The ghost story at PoiPet, Cambodia, a spiritual story of meeting ghosts, was told by an older brother. He said that in 2019, the governments of Thailand and Cambodia officially reopened the railway from Ban Kalong Lak, Thailand, to PoiPet, Cambodia. In the late 80s and early 90s, I was in this area. The station in PoiPet town, Cambodia, was closed in 1974 because of the war. This place was dark, desolate and deserted, with many rooms. The line was built on both sides. After expelling the genocidal Khmer Rouge army, Vietnamese volunteers returned this place to the new Cambodian government at that time. At that time, I was in the Pin Lake area, a lake dug by the Khmer Rouge government to store fresh water. Because this area had a severe water shortage in the dry season, the lake was about more than 1 square kilometer wide, with several small farms surrounding it. Of the Khmer people, at that time this place was Battambang province, now Ban Thi Mien Che. Across the Thai border, about a few kilometers away, are Road 3346 and Road 3308, two roads running parallel to each other and intersecting northwest of the lake before going deep into the interior of Thailand. This place is not unfamiliar to K veterans, with a series of notorious strategic strongholds like Ampin, PoiPet, 175, Phamalai, Kaumile. This place at that time with dense bamboo and thorn forests in the past, with countless gold soldiers and bones of dead people, because this is the road through PoiPet border gate, so many traders and people crossing the border passed through. Pol Pot soldiers and para-soldiers, stalk and block the way to kill and rob the poor people. Suffering, including many Vietnamese people in Cambodia who fled the genocidal Khmer Rouge regime to Thailand. It used to be like that, but since liberation, this place has transformed incredibly quickly. That day, just a few years later, we returned there and were bewildered by the changes. Now, this place is one of the places with the most casinos in Cambodia. On the other side is Aranyakra, the district of Sakeo province, Thailand. In the past here, I used to hear from people and other brothers who had been here for a long time tell stories about ghosts here. Due to my hobby of groping about scary places and ghost stories, wherever I go, I'm curious in many ways. And here I've heard quite a few stories like that, let me tell you. Let everyone listen to a few pieces for fun. During the war, on this side, PoiPet had many desolate and deserted places. It was quite a distance from the border post to have people living there. Right on Ampi Lake, there was an abandoned commune. Later, the remnants of the army returned there to set up base. It's quite large, I don't remember its name anymore, and now there are no traces of it left. Modern houses have sprung up there and are very beautiful. At that time, there were many trails that could be traversed. Thai. One afternoon, two teammates told me they discovered many silhouettes of people lurking along the road. Because sometimes there are still smugglers sneaking through there, so it's not really strange to me, but I'm curious as to why they dare to go on those roads when it's still light, or at dusk, because they often sneak there at night. One night, the moon was very bright, my 5 brothers returned from the Thai border. We walked about 5 to 7 meters apart, looking around as we walked, when we passed a low field and prepared to enter a forest. We all discovered that there were many silhouettes of people ahead, and the voices of women and girls were echoing. This bamboo forest is flat and protrudes like a grave in the middle of a bare area, very clear to observe and encircle and block. We thought that the remnants of the army had returned, so we quickly divided into 2 prongs to block the front and surround. Because we passed here a lot during the day, We knew the terrain here like the back of our hands. We had me and another boy following behind. When we saw the black and white shadows disappearing into the bamboo groves, we also approached them, blocking their escape route, but strangely, when we entered the bamboo groves, everything was like evaporated and there was no movement left, thinking they knew they were exposed so they hid. We carefully checked each location but saw absolutely nothing. The weather was very hot, so the brothers gathered together and sat, resting and whispering to each other. Where did they go? Finally, Thomas gave the order to withdraw. John and I walked at the end of the line. Strangely enough, as soon as we got out of the bamboo grove to the beginning of the dry river, through the bright moonlight I saw them behind me, only about 20 meters. I clearly saw the person in front was a woman. I picked up a clod of dirt and threw it at Brother John's back, but Brother John also saw it. He motioned for me to sit down. The other brothers also sat down under the bright moonlight, a whole group of 11 people. We count carefully, it's 11. There are 2 children, all of them are women, girls. They walk behind us, on the same trail, but when we sit down and turn our guns to wait for them, they turn back. Past us, seemingly in parallel, everyone walked silently under the moonlight. Before, we could hear them talking, but when they passed us, the 2 sides were only about 10 meters apart. We sat silently together. He opened his mouth and looked dumbfounded, when on that side there were many small, dry thorn bushes, but when they passed by, there was no sound at all, and the sound of insects still chirping. This was very strange, because when they passed by, there was no sound. When walking at night in deserted places like this, insects are the warning signal that there are people there. When there are people present, the insects suddenly quiet down. Over here when they all pass by, the sound of insects still chirping. When I met the border guards and a few other people, I heard them say that we weren't the only ones who encountered strange things. The old brothers there, almost every night watchman, had met them. They were traders. They were killed and robbed by soldiers a few years ago and they are still lurking in that bamboo forest and wasteland. Later, when we gradually retreated to point 175 where the thick bamboo forests were, we encountered many human bones at the bottom, including the skeletons of children and women, whom I thought were Vietnamese because of their long hair. And the white stainless steel hairpin used by women in Vietnam in the past, while Cambodian people, from old to young, only have a neck-length cropped hairstyle according to the rules of the Pol Pot barbarians. The other day, here I was at a station employee's house. I heard him tell a story, and this story I heard for the 3rd time, by 3 people, a teammate and 2 cam people. At that PoiPet station, back in the days of the Vietnamese War, in the 60s and 70s, there was a young lady of Vietnamese origin, the daughter of an employee of the old regime, whose family was very wealthy. The girl's father had a small mansion right at the border gate, now a hotel below with a cafe and a small beautiful feng shui lake. It's unclear why the girl committed suicide out of anger. Right at that station in 1971, the train crushed that girl into many pieces. At that time, this place was still busy and this girl's suicide shocked public opinion here for a long time. Said she committed suicide because of love. After that, many ghost stories about this girl were rumored by the people here. Some distance above the station gate there is a small iron bridge. Now there is still a shrine with a curved roof where the girl's head was found. At first they thought it had been crushed by the train, but for some reason it was crushed. Followed the train up there, more than 100 meters from the accident site, and fell into the ditch below. One afternoon a few days after the accident, An aunt was passing by the train station and suddenly cried loudly and walked unconsciously with her hands in front like a blind person, then went to the bridge and cried, pointing down for help. People picked up their heads. A large number of people witnessed the police pick up the broken head of the girl there, but no one could explain why, because the girl and the other woman were strangers, and the other woman also didn't know there was an accident there. She was just a guest from far away. A nearby station employee told me that since he was a child, he had witnessed this girl's ghost appear several times walking along the railway to the bridge. At that time, the station was closed because of the war, leaving nothing but desert. Ruins. The headless girl kept swaying and swaying on the old train tracks, clearly visible in the moonlit night. More than a month after the girl's accident, a series of tragic train accidents occurred, but strangely, they were all at the station, not outside the intersection, he told people who used to work at that station. Almost died, recounted that, while on night duty there, many times they heard the sound of the train bell ringing, the door banging, and the girl screeching, forcing them to go out and find their bodies and reconnect. There were train gatekeepers who said that sometimes when they sat down to drink tea at night, their teacup would turn red and smell like blood, making it impossible to drink. Some people said they were pulled by a girl reaching up from the tracks, or a man who still lives about 2 kilometers from the station said he went to the station to play football, and a girl kept waving her hand to invite them. He went. He followed unconsciously and boom, the train rushed past and took his legs and fingers, but he did not die. The scary thing was that before he passed out, he still saw the girl in the crowd. The crowd gathered to drag him out. Her eyes were wide and angry, looking at him, not the smile like when she invited him to follow. He was so scared that he never dared to go to that station again. The train station employee also said that many patrol officers were teased by this girl by knocking on their doors in the middle of the night and walking arm in arm with them on the tracks, culminating in one employee being run over and killed by a train nearby. The small iron bridge where the girl's head was seen in the past. Then the responsible people at the station had to invite a magician to perform a magic spell to control the girl's promiscuity so that accidents would be less frequent than before. But since this station reopened in 2019, people have seen strange things happen more than once. Once, the train driver saw a girl standing with her arms outstretched in the middle of the train track. A distance from the bridge. The train had just pulled the horn, just applied the brakes, but when I got down to check, there was nothing. Most recently, 2 months ago, the waiting room staff were in a panic. At 9 p.m., while they were cleaning up before retiring, they suddenly smelled a strong fishy smell. When they checked their surroundings, there was ice. There was someone lying in seat B, thinking the train passenger had fallen asleep. 2 staff members came to wake him up and they both screamed and rushed out, scared to death. When on that seat was just an unhealthy corpse. Lay there. When people rushed in, strangely there was nothing there, only a faint fishy smell in the room. Right outside this room is the porch where in the past people collected the body of a girl who committed suicide and left it there. And this is the end of the story. Everyone who listens to the story finds it interesting. Please give me 1 like and 1 subscriber. I hope everyone has fun listening to the story. See you in the next videos. Goodbye.